Hello! Welcome back to my workshop. Today we're looking at a Sega Master System. It's the usual untested eBay item, no leads, no power supply, worked the last time that I tried it job. The case is really scruffy, the badge no longer stays in place. We're going to clean the case, clean inside, replace the caps, fit a modern switching regulator, and then give it a good test. So let's just get on with it. This is what we've got on the bench today. The case is quite scruffy. Like on the back you can see that there's tape and like all sorts of stuff stuck to it. A lot of work on the case. The main problem with the case is this. This wasn't glued on, and as you can see it's just a bit of a mess. We will look at this in a bit, but for now let's have a look at what we actually brought. So I've already taken this apart. Here is our board. Again, this looks quite scruffy. So lots of dirt on the board. Everything needs a good clean. Quite a lot of corrosion on the RF modulator there. We have a PAL VA3 power base, Zilog Z80. I believe that's the ROM and that's the RAM. Then we have the I/O controller, the video RAM, and then the custom chip is under the heatsink, and over here is the video encoder. First we'll power it up and make sure that everything works. Then I have a Traco, which is a modern switching regulator. We have a cap kit to fit, and if we need them, I have some new switches. These rubber dome switches are notorious for not working. I brought a controller, and I managed to find an original one that wasn't too expensive. I brought this power supply, which was listed as for the Master System, and it has the correct voltage and the negative on the middle. I brought a basic composite lead, and then these two games, Action Fighter and Spider-Man. But I've had this for so long that I also brought this Master System EverDrive from AliExpress. To try and clean up the case, I have this Novice set. So we're going to try and polish out some of those scratches. But first, let's get this connected up and do some safety checks and see if it works. The first thing I want to do is check that there's no actual short on the barrel connector. So that's our ground pin, and then if we connect onto the back, we don't have any connection on there. Let's just do that on the inside. So there's definitely no short going over the barrel connector. Let's check if we've got any shorts on our regulator. So the middle pin is ground, and then we have our input and our output. So there's no short on the regulator. So I say that this is safe power up. We have the AV lead, and we've got the new power supply. Okay, so I'm going to switch on the power supply, and we'll switch the TV over to AV2. AV1 is RGB. Okay, let's try that again. So we've got our Sega logo, but there's a lot of noise in the background of that screen. So you can see on the capture, we have a really bad interference, like a banding on the screen. So I wonder what that is. I think what I'm going to do is just connect up my bench power supply, just to be sure. Right, let's pull out this rubbish cheapo power supply. Got the bench power supply, it's set to 9 volt, and I have reversed the terminals. So we are center negative. Okay, put the power supply on, turn that on, and we can instantly see on the capture that that banding has gone away. So that new power supply that I brought is just shit. Let's quickly put that back on the television. Yeah. Okay, the picture looks pretty good for composite. We've got Action Fighter, and we have our controller. Okay, well, it seems to be working. The controller works, the cartridge is working okay, and the SMS is working okay. Well, let's test the buttons. I didn't like that. Okay, so we've got pause, that seems to work okay. But reset isn't working. So we need to change the reset. I think we'll just replace them both anyway. I'm just going to remove the remaining screws that was holding the board into the case. Then we're going to remove the heatsink from the regulator. And last, pop off the power switch. I don't want to damage it. I'm going to remove the old regulator, and I was having lots of problems. My temperature on my iron was way too low, and the really thick heavy copper on this board was making it difficult to work. So you could see I was just making a bit of a mess removing the regulator, and I ended up cutting the legs out. Once I did that and we cleaned it up, everything was okay. And then eventually I do increase the temperature on the iron and everything's a lot easier. Now that we've replaced that, let's just quickly make sure that we get a green light before we move on to fixing the switches. So now we're on to the switches. Just like before, I was having trouble getting the solder out, nice and cleanly anyway, and it was the ground planes. The ground planes are really big. I had turned up the temperature by this time, and just like with the regulator, I end up cutting the switch out. It was so much easier, and then I could just remove the legs and clean up the pads. After this, we put the new switch in, and on this first one, I made a mistake and I didn't bend the legs in and then straighten them out. So they were kind of curved, and as two of them went in, I couldn't get the other two, so I was really struggling. But eventually it went in. Before we fit the second switch, I decided to give the first one a quick test, just making sure that the button on the case actually activates the switch that I just replaced. And it does. So let's move on to the second switch. So the lessons from the first one, we move over to the second. We cut the switch off the top. We clean up the pads. Then we straighten the legs in and make sure that they point down rather than curved in. And the switch goes in so much easier, and we can just solder it in place. And then we move on to the caps. So the cap kit did come with this nice document that showed where all the caps go and the values of the caps. And then it was just a matter of working my way around using the desolder station, flux and solder, and just removing them all.
Eventually,
we get the last one in, and we are ready to try and turn this on again. So we've got the system back in the case, connected up to the capture device. We're going to use the bench power supply again. Let's turn it on at the bench power supply. 9 volts. And we've got power, and as we can see, we have display and we have sound. So let's go back to our cheapo rubbish power supply and just see if the cap kit and the Traco has made any difference. So basically no. We still have our horrible banding with the cheapo power supply. So, controller. Okay, there's our game. So pause is working okay. And the reset is working okay. So yeah, I'm happy that the cap kit has gone okay, and our power regulator is okay. So really, all that's left is to clean the board, clean the case, and then look at our replacement case badge. This video is sponsored by my awesome Patreons. Thank you so much for your continued support. This month I've brought new capture device and also better lighting, and I'm constantly trying to improve on my video quality. If you are interested, I'll put a link in my description and you can help me make better videos. So we have the ultrasonic cleaner set up. It's around about 50 degrees and I've got the board in there. I let it just like warm up as it was heating up. And I've also got some PCB ultrasonic cleaning solution in there. So I'm going to do the clean, flip it over, do the clean again, and then we can give it a bit of a scrub and then another clean. So while the ultrasonic cleaner is running, I nip upstairs to the cantina area that, after 4 years in the building, I've only just found it. Oh well. So we're going to give the case a good scrub, and I did use like the scouring side of the foam thing, which was probably a mistake, but then I am going to be polishing out all the scratches afterwards, so I didn't think it would make that much difference, and it turns out I was lucky. We'll put that to one side, let that dry, and then go back to the ultrasonic cleaner, and now that that's finished, I'll give that a good scrub with the toothbrush just to get rid of any remaining bits, and there was a few signs of flux where I put a lot of the rework flux on there. So I just give that another good clean, and then at the end of that I rinse it off with 99% isopropyl, and that will help evaporate the water that's on there. Again, that's left overnight, so came back into work on the Monday, and at the end of the working day I started to work on polishing the case, and we're using the Tomys system. So number 3 is for the heavy scratches, then number 2 is for the light scratches, and number 1 is a cleaning and polishing compound. I did test on one corner first just to make sure that it was okay, and then after that I carried on. But again I made a bit of a mistake, and all of the grills and vents on the back got filled full of the thicker liquid, so I had to find a way to clean all of that out, and I ended up using window cleaner. It was okay. I gave the case another good clean at the end of this, and it looks so much better. So here is the board that's now fully dried, and it looks really nice. So all the dust bits have gone and everything looks nice and clean. So we have got the new switches on there, and the new cap kit, and the switching regulator. So the board should be good for a long time. If we just look on the back also looks nice and clean, and I did check the solder joints on the edge connector to make sure that it was okay. Now we have a clean case, it's time to look at the badge, and as you can see the original one is not very nice. It's really scruffy, no longer sticks on the case. I approached my friend Ollie at Arcade Art Shop, and after working with him on some of my arcade cabinets, I knew he would be the man for the job. He does have a very fancy printer, and he can print these laminated parts for me. So I sent him my original, and he sent me some testers, and eventually we got to the final 2. If we look at this picture, you can see an original cartridge in the background, then the label in front of that was labelled as brown, and the one in the foreground was labelled as red. And I decided to go with the one that was more red, and I thought it was a really nice colour. I kind of wish I did this before polishing the case, but oh well. To put the sticker on, we need a nice base, and there was still lots of glue, old glue, that was on that spot where the sticker needs to go. So I cleaned it with IPA, and then I actually sanded it down and tried to get it down as much to the plastic as I can, being very careful not to scratch the surrounding area. And then once I'd sanded it down, wiped it with IPA again, so we should have a nice clean surface, and we can peel the sticky backing off the label and apply it to the case. So now we have a nice clean board, we have a polished clean case with the new sticker on the front. It's time to put everything back together, so we can screw the cartridge flap back in and the little support thing that goes on the inside. screw the motherboard back into the base, pop the power switch on the front, and then for the moment we'll just put the top back on. I didn't screw it together just yet, but look at it. It looks so much better. It's clean, it looks nice and shiny. That new badge on there, I'm very, very happy with how it turned out. It's not perfect, it could be better, but I'm very happy. So let's get it set up and have another play. So there we have our Sega Master System. It looks so much better than when I first got it. We've got the new badge on there from Arcade Art Shop. Thank you so much, Ollie, for doing that. There will be a link in the description. If you're looking to replace your badge, it will be on its store very soon. The only thing that's left to do really is find a better power supply. That new one that I brought is just rubbish, and I'm still using the bench power supply at this time. So we need to find an original or a good linear power supply rather than the switching one. So I'm going to call this video here. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy playing my Sega Master System now. I can't wait. So I'll see you all again soon. Bye.